I'm Lisa Stone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Parenting Aces. Welcome to the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week we are going to be chatting with Patricia Hy-Boulais, who is based in Toronto/Montreal, depending on which week it is and which day of the week and where her children are. Patricia is a former professional player turned coach, turned tennis parent, turned blogger, and soon to be book author. And for those of you who missed my first podcast with Patricia earlier in 2018, the link to that episode will be in the show notes. And I urge you to take a listen because Patricia talks in depth about her life in the sport and her experience coming up in tennis, both in Hong Kong and in the States and in Canada. And she's lived all over the world and has just a fascinating history. But what precipitates this week's podcast is that Patricia recently announced that she was going to be starting a blog. And I was so thrilled to hear that because she's not only writing from the coach's perspective, but also from the parent's perspective. And you'll hear in this week's episode what her goals are and what precipitated this new blogging and the book that she's working on now that hopefully will be out sometime early in 2019. But I think it's so great to have another voice out there in the blogosphere that is bringing a unique perspective to parents and to coaches alike. And so I urge you all to check out her blog. And again, the link will be in the show notes, so you'll have to look there for it. And also, Patricia has generously offered to be available to answer questions from any of you guys. So if you have questions for her, with her coaching hat on, with her parenting hat on, with her player hat on, her email address will be also in the notes and you can reach out to her directly. So I hope you enjoy this week's episode with Patricia Hy-Boulais. Patricia Hy-Boulais, thank you so much for coming back on the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm so excited to catch up with you.
Well, thank you. Great to be back. Excited.
Well, you know what kind of precipitated this whole thing is an email I received from you about your new blog. And I was so thrilled to hear that you're going to be writing about junior tennis, college tennis. I expect professional tennis as well. And you come at this from such a unique perspective, being a tennis parent yourself, being a tennis coach yourself, having worked in and even run numerous tennis programs. So this is just so exciting.
Well, it's been, tennis has always been a big part of my life. There was one time when after I retired from the tour that I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to have anything to do with this. After 18 years, as you can imagine, day in and day out. And 9 months later, I picked up tennis again and went into coaching and had our own academies and so forth. And what's interesting is over the years, on my travel into tournaments, because I got two kids who play at a high level, parents, I would hide my identity. Just because I want to watch my kids. I want to watch the kids in our program. And then I think my cover, got blown, when actually I think it was Bill Ozaki was like, hey, Patricia, would you like to come talk at, this event at dinner, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay. And then he gave me an introduction with my background. And that was like, I think that was like 10, 12 years ago. And then since then, people would, come up to me, which is really nice. I do enjoy helping the kids. I really enjoy speaking to parents. I know some coaches prefer not to, but I just felt like I can help them, and they always, when I gave them the answers that they've never heard of before, I could see they're like, oh, wow, okay. And they recognize it and they're okay with it. So that really gave me the idea where a lot of parents, are in the dark, especially parents to the first child in tennis,
Right.
because they don't know their way around and they need guidance. Yeah, listen, as parents, we want, to give all sorts of opportunities to our children. We want, give them the world. So unknowingly, though, I was able to pick up like, well, maybe these parents are not doing or they're taking the longer road, and some don't even arrive. And as I spoke over, I'm talking about, different continents. I'm not even talking about just Canada or the US. And it's just seeing that they have a common thing, when they vent or, ask me questions was that, basically I gathered they just don't know a whole lot. And that really gave me the idea of, and that started a few years ago, how can I help parents, and provide them with information, because tennis is we all know it's a great sport. It provides all sorts of values and benefits. But it's also complex depending on the level that you want your child to play at. The higher they go, the more complex it is. So, and it just gave me the idea, one day I'm going to write a book. And so I am doing that. And while I'm writing the book, I thought, I will teach myself how to write, blogs. And that's what I just started.
Yeah. And it's fabulous. I mean, you're coming at this with the voice of an experienced former player who played on the tour, from the experience of a coach, and you've had decades of coaching experience without giving away your age. And, and with the experience of a parent of two kids who were playing at very high levels. And so, when you look at what you have to offer to parents, I mean, it's just invaluable. And you and I were talking before I hit the record button, about comparing what you're doing to what I'm doing with Parenting Aces. I was and still am to some degree sharing the parent's perspective of what it's like to go on this journey with your child. You not only will have the parent's journey to share, but also the insider's look from the coaching side and from the professional side at what it takes. And so I love that. And I'm so excited to see the content that you put out, and, to see how your following grows. And so what are some of the plans you have? What are some of the topics that you want to tackle through your new blog?
The biggest, the overview of is to bridge the gap between coaches and parents, because I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding and not knowing, and it's a lot of times it's a tug of war. So sometimes I will cover like this next it started yesterday. For the next 5 weeks, it's like, 5 simple strategies to provide parents, that they can get the most out of a coach. And I'm speaking from the next 5 weeks, I will be speaking strictly from the coach's standpoint, what will get my attention, so that the information from the coach's view will provide insights for the parents. Oh, well, maybe I should do it differently. And, if I could do that, because, when we go into this conflict, we always think we're right. The parents think they're right and the coach thinks they're right. So if I could provide information, on that and get to the parents to understand that then it will save them a lot of heartaches, headaches, sleepless nights. And funny enough, it will help them financially as well, because when parents get frustrated over time, what is the first thing they're going to do? They want to leave. right? They want to leave they want to jump to another program just to find that it's the same problem. So they can go to 10 different programs, but then who is going to suffer is the child. Because now, instead of one voice, the child is going to get 10 different voices, not to mention the biggest influence is the parent. Because the child will always, you can tell the child whatever you want by words, but your action's going to speak louder than words. So, and those are the insights I'm going to provide. And then I'm also going to provide the other side to coaches, believe it or not, from the parent standpoint. Because I don't think all coaches are parents out there. So it's also good for the coaches. Maybe it's something that they could implement better. And so lately what I've done, in addition to my posts, is to reach out to clubs, and federations and organizations to have me come to speak, sort of like a parent education, parents workshop, but not just like, oh, how many hours should you play? What tournament should you play? They can get all that, from the coaches, but really the nitty gritty behind the scene where nobody talks about. I'll give you an example. Like 2 days ago, I'm currently not in Montreal, right? I'm sitting there just minding all my own business. And this mother comes up to me and, oh, you know what? My son really wants to go on the pro tour, and this and that. He's talented. He works really hard. That's all he wants to do. Well, guess what? All parents say that.
Right. Right.
Then, right. I mean, and they always say, and so as I gave her some questions. The very first question I asked her, was like, what is he like on the court? That was it, right? Because I'm going after, because there's certain profiling, right? For a kid to go on the tour. It is more difficult than people think. Oh, he's very passionate. That was the answer. I'm like, that's not enough. And she looks at me like strange. What do you mean he's not passionate enough? And I was like, okay. How much are you willing to spend? And she was like, well, whatever. And I gave her an approximate between the amount I know of, right? I said, if you have that to spend, sure, I'll try to find a academy to hook you up. Now we're not talking 1 year. We're talking an average of 4 years. So that means he could make a breakthrough in 3 or 6 or 7. Let's average to 4. So now we're talking of what, $250,000? Right. Do you have that? And I could see like that was something she never thought of before. Because those are the things that people don't talk about. They're like, oh yeah, let's go and play high performance. Let's go play the ITF this. Let's go get all the points. And then what? And then, or you have a parent starting their child, when they're younger, it's just like one class a week. And then as they get older, the time goes up. And then with more time, of course, the dollar is going to be more, and then what? Oh, wait, I have to tag on another $10,000 because going to these tournaments. Well, yeah, the club is not going to pay for you.
Right. And what's interesting is that information is out there. I've read, countless articles about what it costs to develop a junior player, what it costs to be out on the tour. But until you have that one-on-one conversation, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to really sink in until someone sits down and asks you, the parent, that question, like you did with this parent, to say, do you have that kind of money? Because that's what it takes. And, all of a sudden it's like this shock. And it's like, why are you so shocked to hear that? There's so many articles out there that tell you this. Have you not done any investigation at all into what the sport takes? And that's when I get kind of like, wow, people don't do their homework.
Well, I guess they get busy, especially like, moms with 4 kids.
Sure.
Family, but I wanted my post, my blog, to be different in the sense that to get parents to think about things, for coaches to think about things. Nobody can say, well, 100% this child cannot do it. I mean, how many times have you seen, right, players who did not win a national, did not do well on the ITF, but went on and, become like top 50, top 10 on, in the men, and vice versa, right? Where they're number one junior in the world and then couldn't transition over. So yeah, no one can predict, but there are certain things. One of the things that I think people underestimate is the commitment part. The commitment. Are you willing for your child to go to Europe, for example? And that's, in our family, let's just say, last year, okay, because our 15-year-old boy at the time decided they're not going to listen to my mom and dad. That's normal, and we're talking a set of parents who know a lot about tennis.
Right. So, and let me just say, you and your husband are both coaches. Not just one of you. You're both coaches.
Right. We are both coaches. We're coaches of high performance and tour players. So it's not like just the high school tennis. We have a lot of experience. But what we face with our children are the same as what other parents face, because they have this testosterone running in this 15-year-old boy. The ego is bigger than, it's like, right. Well, mom, you're not going to tell, whatever. So instead of being the problem, let's find solutions here. Okay, let's put our pain aside and what we can figure out. So now we found this place, of all places, in Germany. I mean, we're talking thousands of miles away, right? So, okay, do we send him there or do we not? He's 15. So we decided, some parents don't want to let go, and some parents are okay. And that's the commitment itself. Or like right now, we live in Toronto and our son is training in Montreal full time. So my husband and thought, he just turned 17. He still needs his family, right? As much as if I was other things. So we made the commitment. I moved to Montreal part-time with him when he's training here. So there's that commitment, and that it's a whole package. It's not just like, oh yeah, they started a tournament and they can just go off, and it's complicated.
Right. Right. And it's not just one thing, as you're saying. It's not just the financial piece. It's not just the family commitment, but also, is the kid mentally strong enough to do what it takes? Is the child's body going to hold up and be able to perform day in and day out for years on end to reach the highest level of the sport? Are they working on their academics? Is college tennis part of the picture? And if so, do they have the academic strength to play at the level they want to play at? So, I mean, there's so many pieces of the puzzle. And again, I love that you have experience in so many of these different areas. And now you're willing to put that to, quote, paper, the internet, for everybody to be able to learn. I just think it's fantastic.
And thank you very much. And I do. And there's another thing that I consciously chose to do, because, when I started my first blog, I was obviously very nervous because I'm not, I'm a tennis all my life turned writer, right?
Right.
So I taught myself a lot of these courses, how to write, this and that. And I have to tell you, I have to walk my talk, because I'm always preaching to all the players I coach, it's like, you know what? You got to face your fear and you got to move through it and you got to do it anyways, right? Face your fear and do it. And of course, in my, new career right now, writing, and then all of the courses that I read was like, expect that your first 100 writing is going to be bad. And I was like, oh my God. And then expect the next 100 to be less bad. You're not even good yet. I was like, whoa, okay. So I embraced myself. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. It's like a chance, right? I'm like, that's what I did when I was playing, and I could do this. And then I say that to the players too. So I did that. And so consciously, when I wrote my first post, and I said, you know what? People are busy. right? They don't have the time, and how the length of my blogs, what do I want to do besides, okay, get the information out, that insights. I want to be different, right? Providing insights. And my second objective was, how could I keep it short enough that they can read within under a minute? Under a minute. That was, it's tough. It's tough to do.
Sure.
And then, so when I finally did it, obviously depending on the readers, the speed of reading, right? So I got my daughter to read it, and then the very first thing she was like, "Wow, Mom, that was good information." And secondly, she goes, "Wow, that was really short. That was great." So I was like, mission accomplished, because there is something to be said about achieving, even for us, right? When we listen to a podcast, I'm like, oh, I did it. Or, so I wanted to keep it relatively short. And that goes, to my first book as well. It's going to be short, that people is going to get the insight. And then, when we finish a book or a podcast, we feel we have accomplished something versus something that's really long. So on my decor, I'm going to try to keep it short, because my husband is like, yeah, why did you put these, 5, strategies? Why did you break them, up? I said, because for that reason, because they're long, and I want to elaborate the importance of each, give it space for people to understand. And then I just feel like if I keep it short enough, and with insights, that people will come and visit it, and then they will probably likely to come back to me again.
Right. And I will say, I mean, your first entry is very short. It's about a dozen sentences, maybe.
Yep.
And I love that. It's, it's very quick and easy, simple to read, and very straightforward. And I think that your approach is going to be really, really well received and very helpful to the parents out there that are looking for some more information, and maybe some information from the coach's perspective. But you're not just targeting parents, you're also targeting coaches. And I'm curious to hear what you think the coaching community's response is going to be, and what types of topics you're looking to tackle for them.
I was at Rogers Cup this summer. I was commentating. And there was an event in Montreal, because I did the women's side, and there was this event where we were presented with awards and stuff on the court. So we were at this banquet, and I was sitting with these 4 other coaches, high profile Canadian coaches. And I told them the idea that I'm going to write the blog and the book and so forth. And then they were like, oh, that's awesome. You should put this and that or whatever. And then I said, well, let me share this with you. I'm also going to be talking, from the coach's standpoint, from the parent standpoint, are you going to be okay with all that? And they're like, yeah, you know what? So they actually gave me that. You should talk about this. You should talk about that. And we would love you. So I got some, insight from these coaches where they felt misunderstood.
Well, I was going to say, they have to feel like there's things that they want parents to know, but maybe they as coaches haven't figured out the best way to communicate that. And maybe you're going to be their voice to help educate us, the parents, on what the coaches need and what the coaches are looking for from us.
Absolutely. And that my next 4 blogs, sorry, because I already started one yesterday. It's exactly that. What is it? Because when the one thing that you hear a lot also, from parents is favoritism, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So actually, yeah. So it's like, okay, that was what my blog yesterday was. Let's talk about it. It does exist. Now, some coaches, they deny it, and I think that's silly. It's like, it happens all over the world.
Right.
Like you cannot tell me, and I'm not going to lie to you. When I have my kids on the court, you don't think I'm going to favor them a little bit?
Right.
Right? I'm being honest, right? They're my blood, okay? However, I will tell you this. if my children do not give me the work ethic, the commitment, the listening, any values that I feel that a player should have, okay, I will put them aside. And I have done that. I have kicked my children off the court because they were not doing what a player or a coach expecting of them. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's a matter of, I think some parents take it too personal. The minute that the coach is not talking to the child, or they talk more to the other child, or what is favoritism, it's not. It's how you look at it. Right? Do you prefer? I have favorite movies. Doesn't mean the other ones are bad. It's just at that moment, I favor this one. You know?
Right.
So it's or like that child could be, because I was on the court. I was hands-on with 20 players, right? So sometimes I see this player, I will name her, it's not a real player. Jill is on the court, and we had talked about certain tactics or strategies to overcome her emotions and so forth. And we put her to play a practice match, and I need to give her some space to work at it. I may give her a few words throughout the 2 hours, but that doesn't mean I don't care about her. And then I go to the other court and talk to Sally, more, so it's just a matter of perspective. So I'm leading, this is from a coach's standpoint, this is what happened. Right. Mm-hmm. And, maybe the parents can get that insight. Yeah, you know what, that happened. And here's another thing, right? Take your kids' complaint with a grain of salt, right? Because kids are kids. They are recounting their days through their lens, through their perspective, which may be true or being dramatized, right? So as an adult, you need to investigate, right? You need to investigate, but how many parents would just completely just like call a meeting or, whatever. And several topics came up constantly where they feel the kids have become soft. Have you heard of that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we hear it all the time. That's, here in the States. I mean, you spend enough time in the States. That's been the complaint of the coaches, the federation, everybody. Right.
Right. Exactly. So I'm going to be writing about that, because I've seen it throughout my programs in the U.S., in Canada. It's like, the minute the coach is a little more intense with the kid, right? What happens? What do you think happens? The kid cries.
Right.
Right? Coach is being mean to me. So at dinner table, all right, kid goes home, right? Ooh, whatever. How was your day? It was okay. Oh, why'd you look so sad? Now tears may come out or may not. And the whole story comes out, and it can get completely blown out of proportion. And the next day saying, you know what? The parent is calling a meeting with the coach instead of like, you know what? If you have done your due diligence in researching this program with coaches, they have not had any unethical behaviors in the history, mm-hmm. Let them be, because they need, the coaches and the players, they need to build a bond. They need to bond with each other. They need to build a strong foundation of relationships, right? Relationship is not just about good times, right? It's you're tested. You're tested through thick and thin on the practice court, on the match court, in tournament, how they communicate with each other. If they survive that communication, that's when the relationship builds. But if the parents step in the minute there is conflict, they don't have, the player and the coach, they don't have the opportunity to bond together, to work things out together. That's it's not just personal relationship. It's the player-coach relationship. The stronger that bond they have with each other, the more caring the coach is going to have for that player. But oftentimes, because the parents step in, that weakens the whole thing. And then guess what the kid does? Runs to the mom and dad every time there's a problem.
Right. Right. I mean, it's just one more illustration of the life skills that these kids can learn from the sport if we parents step back and allow them to learn.
Absolutely. I had this conversation yesterday with this parent, and he was like, okay, so once you take over, I'm just going to be like disappear. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Do not disappear. Just step over to the side because that child still needs you.
Right.
Don't completely. And your coaches, at least in my perspective, over my years of coaching, I am gonna educate the parents with the lingo I use with their kids through the lessons. Why do I do that? Because if I don't go to every weekend of tournament. I have a life of my own too, right? I'm not always available. So guess who's gonna take the child? Right? The parent. Okay. So now parents will always give their view of helping the child who is competing on there. It doesn't matter if the parents know tennis or don't know tennis. What matters is I'm going to give them specific things to look for. So when I talk to the parents, then I have a sense of, is the child following the plan, the things that we are working on? Because if I don't do that, then the parents are going to come out with all their view. It's like, oh my gosh, that's not what I want. Because most of the time the parents react with their emotions, right? They're playing the match themselves. So they're not going to give me an accurate review, an accurate assessment of, I could be working on stepping into the ball and swinging, at swing volley at every high ball. I want the parents to count how many high balls the kid received during the match. How many did she swing at it? That's what I want to know, because that's the development side I'm looking after. And also by giving a perspective or an objective to the parents to look for, it somehow keeps them calmer, right? Because now they have a little plan that they are also, because they have to report to me.
Right. No, it's great. I mean, I've written articles about that as well, that, when my son was playing juniors, I had a match tracking app on my phone because it gave me something to do. It kept my mind occupied. It was way healthier than me sitting there stressing out over every ball that he hit.
Right. And the thing is, I want the tennis journey, right, be the best tennis journey that a parent can have with their child. We have them for 18 years and they go off to college and they're pretty much on their own. So, let the experience, I think I've been blessed with my experiences with my own two kids. Not that I don't get nervous, I just show it differently. Because from the side, your kid and you have a chemistry going. And if you're nervous, if you're stressed, they are going to feel you even 5 courts away. So you want to find some way to help yourself. And those are a lot of the things that I help parents to understand, like, just things that can help them. Just have a good journey, because it's a tough journey, but you can have a good time with them.
Absolutely. So let's get back to your blog a little bit, Patricia. And I want to talk about why you feel the need to do this now, because I mean, you've been at this tennis game for a long time, and as I mentioned, you've held every role there is to hold in the sport. Why now is it time for you to sit down and start writing?
There's some beauty about age, huh? I'm older with experience, and I see the struggle over the years. I saw the struggle, agony from parents, the agony with them not being able to understand, or they just want to find how can they help their kid, and they're not getting it. They did not get it, even to this day. Okay, parents, not the parents I work with, not the parents I work with. I provide that pathway, the plan, and they're happy. At the end of the day, our children, they are gifts to us. They matter, and as parents, we have so much influence on our kids. Bottom line, my why is really the kids. how we can influence them, how can we help them using tennis as a vehicle to get them, they are leaders of tomorrow. So we can do it from the parent standpoint. I am an advocate for parents to be involved, but be involved being smart from the, the intelligent side. And I can help parents. I wrote this book for many reasons, but the very important, the first and foremost reason is that it's to help the parents understand that there are ways, there are pathways, a journey that they can help with their kids who, how many articles have we read that kids quit tennis or kids got abused by parents, Right. And because the parents go absolutely crazy, irrational, so emotional when they watch their kids. They get into fights. Does not need to be that way. So I want to be going out there. I want to reach as many parents as I can, giving, hosting, parents workshop, parents education, help them to understand this journey. It's, if you can think of it like med school, for example, right? Somebody wants to be a doctor. They go to med school. They go through their undergraduate. Then they go, to their either the pathway of learning how to be a doctor, and then they go into their specialized into whatever. So I want people to see me as the pathway between them and the children, walking side by side from point A to point Z together. In it can be done in a positive way.
Right. So how do people find your blog?
So far, so good. They like it. I don't, this may sound funny. I don't even read reviews. I don't. You know why? Because this is me. This is the way I speak. I'm doing the best I can. I don't, I don't want to hear the good or the bad. Is that weird? I don't know.
It's probably healthy. It's probably healthy.
Because the journey is like, I know this. Like I know in my heart of hearts that this is good stuff. This, it's a challenge for me. I want to be, helping parents. This is what I'm writing is I've been there, done that. I've experienced it. So there's really nothing I cannot undo the past, first of all, right? So I don't need somebody come pat my back, although it's nice to be recognized. I'm not gonna lie, right? It's like driving a Porsche, right? It's nice. You're kidding me, right? But once you get on the road, it's like, okay, my focus is not the credit. My focus is like, okay, what's next? How can I get better? How can I get to the parents? How can I write better? How can I get information out there? Who can I reach? How many have I reached? That's what interests me. So it would be really interesting to me. Like I get emails, I get requests, then I know my words are getting out there and parents are talking about it. That's what I want.
Right. And I get that. I'm the same way. And for me, it's always been about just getting the information out there. And if you help one parent, if you help 100 parents, if you help 1,000 parents, it's all good. Every person you touch then touches the people in their life, and the message gets disseminated, and it's wonderful. But it's tough. And I wonder if you have the sense at all that you're kind of preaching to the choir a little bit. Are the parents who really need this information gonna seek it out? And are the coaches who really need this information gonna seek it out?
Well, I think that not by one time, not by 2 times, but with repetition. Isn't there saying that you have to see it 7 different times for it to stick? I want to, so I started my blog. Okay, that's 1. My book is going to be 2. I'm going to clubs. That's my 3. I'm going to approach TED Talks, for women. That's going to be 4. Maybe I can get somebody to write about it. No, you're doing 1. Okay. That's 6 already. So I need to find 1 more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So 7 different times, the topics are going to be similar anyway. So, I love, and this is, it really gets me going, is like speaking in front of people. It scares me to death, by the way.
Aw. Well, you're so good at it.
It scares me to death, but because it's not something I do often, right?
Right.
I can go play on the court. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to that for like some 40 years of it, right? But speaking in front of, even though, so, but like I'm speaking in Wilmington next weekend, right? Gigi Fernandez is going to be there. I think that's the middle state, or is that the upper state? Gigi Fernandez, George Capitan is going to be there among other speakers, right? And it's going to be fantastic, opportunities. I'm scared to death, yeah, but I look forward to it because that's another way of me reaching to clubs. There's going to be 80 to 100 coaches there. So I was like, okay, this is great. So maybe I get 10% of them get me to come to the club to speak. I'm going in January. I'm going to be speaking in Edmonton, to a club, and it's in front of parents. And, so I'll make my way out to the West Coast. So that's how I want to reach people as much as I can. I don't know if it's possible for, federations because they have other agendas, but I would love to go and speak, and help them out. Instead of, I don't know if they see me as a threat, but they shouldn't, because I am really trying to build the gap between parents and coaches. Because this is for the good of for the player. Yeah. So hopefully, maybe one day.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And your book you're working on it now, or when do you expect that to be finished?
I want it to be finished in March. Somebody was telling me I was overly ambitious, but I am an ambitious person. So, but it is in the making. It's coming along really well. You know what is fascinating is that I'm a learner. I love to learn new things, especially new things. Not too wild. Like, I don't want to go skydiving, type of thing, right? But learning outside of my box. So I have had to take courses, a lot of courses, how to put things together. And so while I'm doing that, and I would go back to the book, I have a routine going, and this is work. For me, this is a new type of work for me. And what gets me going whenever I get stuck, like, oh, I can't do this, I go into the poor me, saying like, I can't do this, then I think of the parents. Think of the parents, and they need this. So in essence, the parents are the ones that gave me this strength and this motivation, like, oh yeah, I got to get it out there. So I'm pushing it for March, to come out in March.
Great. Well, you'll have to come back on the podcast once the book is available, and we'll have to talk about it for sure.
We'd love to. And meanwhile, I do the blog to keep me on track.
Yeah. So are you using your blog articles in the book?
Bits and pieces, yes. I am using, yeah, because they're insights from different perspectives, and that's what my blogs are. They're going to be a lot to do with tennis, and they are not your how many hours should you hit play and whatnot. Although parents can always send me comments, and on my blog they can reach me through emails and so forth. I will be happy to answer any questions, but really is the complexity behind it, not just for high performance, but from when they picked up their first racket to all the way to the pro level, and a little bit for everyone.
That's fantastic. Well, to my listeners, just so y'all know, I will have a link to Patricia's blog in the show notes, as well as her email, which she graciously shared with us last time she was on the podcast. So I'm just assuming, Patricia, that it's okay to share that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Patricia is active on social media, so you can find her there. But I want to encourage everybody to take a peek at this blog. Some people may say, oh, Lisa, why are you promoting this? It's in direct competition with Parenting Aces. Well, no, it's not. It's not at all, because I am a parent writing about this tennis thing from the parent perspective. Patricia is also a parent, but in addition, she's writing from the coach's perspective, the player's perspective. And so it's a much different approach to how to navigate the journey than simply, looking at it from one side. So I think it's fantastic. And for me, the more information out there, the better. And I urge everybody to consume as much information as they can and find the voice that resonates with them. And, Patricia, a lot of your approach to things is so pragmatic, so just, this is the way it is. And you're going to have to figure out how to work within these parameters, and these are the parameters, and this is how much it's going to cost you. And I love that you're so practical and yet at the same time very compassionate in your voice.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That is important to me because, I do want to make this very clear. By no means I'm pointing fingers at anyone. I'm not pointing fingers at coaches. I'm not pointing fingers at parents. I'm not stepping on anyone's toes. Just strictly, like you said, the more information that is put out there, I think it is to the parent's advantage.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, and best of luck with the blog. Best of luck with the book writing. That's a daunting task, I'm sure. And I know you're going to just have great success with all of it. I'm looking forward to watching your progress.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. And to my listeners, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm Lisa Stone, and you've been listening to the Parenting Aces podcast for tennis parents by a tennis parent. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to us and write a review on iTunes. For more information on navigating the junior and college tennis journey, please visit us online at ParentingAces.com. Thanks for tuning in and sharing us with your tennis community.